Welcome, everybody, to the Leaders Leading Leaders podcast. Hey, everybody, John here. I wanted to hop on and talk about leading virtually. How many of you out there have virtual teams? It could be your office is entirely virtual. Maybe you're coming into the physical office a couple days during the week or during the month. It may be you just don't ever come into the office. You work from home, you lead the team, their offices are at home. What does that look like as a leader? What does that feel like as a leader? How do you create that sense of connectivity that you normally would have if we were all in person and we were all coming into the office? I will tell you, it has been a challenge for me. When I first came on as a frontline leader, my entire team was virtual. It was during COVID. Nobody was going in the office at that time. I had employees over all 4 time zones. They were working all from home. I was onboarding into a new organization, a new culture, and I will tell you, it was one of the most challenging times of my life. How did I get through it? I leaned on those who knew the organization. I listened. I did a lot of listening. I will tell you, the first probably 6 months, it was all listening. It was all trying to, just be present in the meetings and learn. I did a lot of reading, whether they were process documents or maybe it was, history on the organization. How did we get to where the organization was at the present day? I think that's always important to acknowledge the past before we could move forward. And I would hold weekly meetings, individual meetings, team meetings, sub-team meetings, and then my peer leaders, I would have meetings. The senior leaders in the organization, we would hold bigger meetings, but a lot of meetings around any challenges that we're having. We would share best practices throughout the organization. I will tell you, just the camera piece, the equipment, was a challenge. Not everybody had good bandwidth at their homes or their home offices. So the camera wasn't always an option. I will tell you, it is one of the most difficult things to talk into a camera when you just have, that silhouette of an emoji, or some folks would add a static picture. But even then, a lot of our communication is nonverbal communication. And if you're not looking at a face, if you're not talking to a face, the only way you can judge that nonverbal communication is asking them to turn their camera on. The other challenge that we had was the tools that we were using, whether it was communication tools or tools that, we had to route things through, or process flow tools. They just weren't up to speed. So there was a big learning curve there to get the tools in place. So even if I wanted to have a conversation with an individual virtually, we had that capability because a lot of the tools bogged down networks and things like that. So, leading virtually, we've stepped into it. And I always tell the team, I'm still learning. 2.5, 3 years into this, I am still learning how to lead virtually. Every year, it gives me an opportunity to look back, look at the frequency of meetings. Am I meeting too much? Are there value to those meetings, whether they're individual or they're team based or it's a sub team based? What tools are we using? Can we use those tools better? Are there automated workflow tools that we can use? Are there document repositories that we can all collaborate on documents together? Are there specific checklists that we can automate? So when certain tasks, especially repetitive tasks, we put those into systems, right? We create a system, not necessarily a system, electronic system, but we create a system and we use checklists to help us accomplish those, and that be automated. So there's a lot of things as leaders that we begin to look towards in our team. I think it's important, to have that conversation with the teams on a weekly basis. I'm a big connector, a relationship builder. And think about this, in your day-to-day life, your family, your marriage, whoever you may have a relationship with, a significant other. If it were long distance, if you could only communicate via a camera in a virtual environment, email, instant messaging, texts, what would that look like? How would that feel? And many of you out there are doing it. Many of you out there are probably, hitting home runs every day with that. But I will tell you, for me, it is not inherent. I am a big, I love to give hugs. I love to give handshakes. I like to see people. I like to connect with people in person. So the virtual environment was a big challenge for me. A couple things that I've done is, one, I always ask the team if their bandwidth permits, and especially on our one-on-one conversations, to please turn on their cameras. It has, I told you, it has been a lifesaver for me because I can see those nonverbals. I see their head nods. I see them, lean back in conversations whenever they may not, like what I'm saying, or they need a minute to think about it. Just those little nuances in communication can really be hindered in a virtual environment. The other thing that we've done is synchronous and asynchronous meetings. We've really taken a hard look at when we need to meet all together, whether it's virtual or in person, or how we can adjust to the asynchronous when we don't need to be all together type of environment. Emails have become a regular day-to-day thing. Some things can be solved over emails. There's still opportunity, though, to pick up the phone or get on a video call with folks and just go over what you need to go over with rather than send emails. There's a lot of misinterpretation, I think, whenever we are reading emails, we're interpreting emails, we're writing emails. A lot of that, is interpretation. And some of that can be misguided. Some of the interpretation, could come off whole 180 from what it was intended to be. A lot of times it's hard to reply to email strings. I will tell you, I only check my email probably twice a day. When I'm in my email, I'm making sure that I check my email, but I let my team know. I'm going to check email in the morning and I'm going to check email in the afternoon. Throughout the rest of the day, I want to be present, whether those are meetings, whether they are, tasks that I need to pay particular attention to or have focus on. So if you send me an email, you better put up in that subject line, action needed, or, please review, something that it's going to catch my attention, because I'm only going to be in there twice a day. So there's a lot of different things I think we can do as leaders leading virtual teams. Time zones are another big consideration. I like to kick off the day early. Sometimes those 7 a.m. meetings, I'm in Central Time Zone, they don't work for the West Coast. I can't expect my West Coast folks to wake up, at what? That would be 5 in the morning to attend meetings. We got to be considerate with that. And the same thing late in the afternoon with the East Coast folks. So there was a time when I first came on where it was like I was in meetings all day long. It was one meeting to the next meeting to the next meeting. I could barely have enough time to, get up and do a bio break or refill my coffee or refill my water or, just take a breath or a lap around the house. Before, we used to plug in that transportation time. I had to walk from this building to that building, or I had to go up the elevator, or whatever that looked like. That time was built in. COVID took all that time, that extra fluff time away. So we've been getting to program that time in. Well, I've also been able to look at meeting durations. Standard duration, what do we do? Every 30 minutes, right? It's either 30 minutes, it's an hour, it's an hour and a half, it's a 2-hour meeting. Some folks say that you can get everything you need done in 7 minutes. Now, that's on the short side of things. Some things can be solved in 7 minutes. I have told you, or I've come to the experience that it probably takes, in my experience, it takes anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes to conduct a meeting. So take a look at your meeting durations, create that buffer in between meetings, look at the purpose of your meetings. Why are you having them? Your synchronous and asynchronous communication. How can those be better? Are we communicating together when, this can be taken care of in an email and vice versa? And then look at, when you do come together, those value added activities. So when you all are together virtually or you get the opportunity to come together in person, what things can you do? Don't just do the things that you can do virtually. Really take a hard look at your agendas and make sure that when you're spending that time together, because it's such a precious time nowadays, that it's value added to the organization. I hope this helps somebody. There's just a couple tips and tricks. We're going to have a a lot more conversation around leading virtually because a lot of us are leading virtually nowadays. Even if we're coming into the office, we're still leading virtually. I go into the office and I have a couple folks here that are located with me, and then the rest of them are still virtual. So there's things, even as we go into the office that we got to pay particular attention to, and we'll talk more about that. Enough for today. Go be great in your virtual leadership. I hope this helps somebody. We'll talk to everybody later. Bye. If you enjoy what you're hearing, please hit the like and subscribe button. It helps us get others to where they're going.